Speaking of endless PR machines, and this is not going to be a wrestling podcast, by the way, don't worry. Vinny, of course, is a fucking AEW mark.
Oof.
There's got to be, it's got to be said, though, that in the last couple of 2022, there's been a real decline on a rapid scale of apparently for their financial income, their critical reviews, their TV ratings, their ticket sales. I was just reading today that apparently their video game, the budget has now, the entire spending has cut off at 110 million, and it's possibly only going to be digital download only because they can't afford. I mean, they don't want to spend even more money on hard copies.
They put Kenny Omega in charge of that shit. That's what you get. You put an idiot wrestler in charge of developing a video game. That's what you get.
But you know what that's the equivalent of? That's the equivalent of going, hey, I heard you love Bruce Springsteen. It's like, oh, yes, I do. You should join the E Street Band.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Vince McMahon going, I really like the NFL. Shit doesn't work out, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm sorry, it's like when South Park makes fun of Michael Bay, right? And he's like, the next movie's gonna have draw, and then it's gonna have brr. That's what Kenny Omega said. He wants his wrestling game to have brr.
Yeah, but I think that with the AEW shit, it really is a case of because I've played the WWE game. It's a Tony Khan clearly grew up playing these games, and he thought, right, I want to do that for real. If only I had tens of billions of dollars to do it. It's like, oh yeah, wait, I do.
Have you ever seen Tony Khan? Have you ever been to a live AEW show, either of you guys?
No.
So Tony Khan does this thing where he comes out and talks to the crowd, and I can't decide if it's cocaine or Adderall that guy's on, because he is fucking he is fucking insane to watch try to talk to the crowd, because he's a little nerd, but he comes out like he's shot out of a cannon. He's like, and tonight we're going to have a match for the North Atlantic Championship. And he's screaming and pushing everything out that he has. And he looks like a crazy person. And he's trying to do like 3 jobs. He's fucking the general manager of some soccer team or football team. Sorry, Hughezy, a football team. And fucking, he works for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's the booker and supposedly in charge of all the editing of all of these fucking shows. And there's 4 of them. And now there's Jeff Jarrett. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Terrible.
Well, he's definitely got a very alleged and questionable sobriety issues, which brings me to the main topic I'd love to talk about. Stuttering John.
Oh,
yeah. I think the problem of Stuttering John is there was a feeling growing for a while that there was like a growing sympathy base for him, because people were thinking, God, he's kind of down on his luck, and he looks like shit. Like, he looks fucking terrible these days.
The people at the soup kitchen didn't even give a fuck about him, Hughezy. I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, like
they were like, move along, drunk.
Like, it really has gotten to this point where he just looks like a broken down old man. But I personally don't give a fuck, because for me, it really is a sense of, if you're going to fake having a fake cancer charity, all shots are allowed.
But you would think that at this point by now he would have said who it was, or would have gotten the permission if it wasn't fake. So I'm with you on that. For a long time, though, I really thought he was trying to do a good thing and just went about it really heavy-handedly and stupidly.
What do you think, though, about the levels that he's taken this stuff to, and that he's tried to literally sue Carl or take legal action? Carl from WATP, by the way, or should I say Kevin from Wide Eye Podcast? Hilarious. He's tried to shut down Shuley's YouTube channel, which is ridiculous, because it just comes across as jealousy. So, but for you, Vinny, when you see the way Stuttering John is going to these levels and taking it this far, what goes through your mind?
All right. You ever had a really, really, really drunk uncle? Right? You kind of love him, but you're like, oh, this fucking guy. And he comes to the house and he's always a problem. He's always starting to fucking fight with everybody. And, you know, when he gets really angry, it's hysterical because he's a sloppy drunk and he's going to start throwing punches and he's going to knock shit off the wall. Stuff's going to get broken, but you still kind of laugh it off because he's your drunk uncle. That's kind of how I feel about him because nothing he's been able to do sticks. It's like, oh, there he goes again. He's punching at the air. It's fun to watch. It really is. But he lies. He lies a lot. When he files these DMCA things, that does bother me because that is a, you know, that could cause a lot of problems. So then they get YouTube channels literally banned forever. But thank God YouTube's actually smart enough to realize what it is. If he had half of a brain, he'd be dangerous doing shit like that. You know what I mean?
Chad, you used to work for Howard Stern. Do you have any good stories of having to deal with Stuttering John?
Well, John left right before I started. So the stink of John, maybe literally and figuratively, was still in the building at the time because I worked at K-Rock. And it was right before Howard moved over to Sirius. And John would still call the studio and ask to talk to Gary or ask to talk to somebody. And at that time, you could get the sense of how much of a coolest putz he was because he still thought he was a part of the show, even though he was gone, right? And I always say, and of course, Vinny be doing a lot of God's work out there with the Stuttering John, unearthing you all have done with Who Are These Podcasts. He still thinks it's the 90s, right? He still thinks it's rock and roll and the Stern Show is on top of the world. When he was leaving, he still thought he owned the place. So he would call, he'd want Gary on the phone, he'd want you to put him right through, and they wouldn't take his calls. They said, don't put him through. They said, hang up on him, tell him I'll call him back. Gary would do this. He would write his hand in the air like this, take a message. He was stupid then and didn't get it. But again, it's that clueless putsness that he still carries to this day that what are we going to do? It's given us hours now of entertainment. He's an idiot.
You know, I feel like he's the kind of guy who, you know, if this wasn't the Howard Stern show, if he worked at a Walgreens and quit or got fired or something like that, he'd still come by to visit his old pals.
Yeah. Or the kid who comes sees his teacher after he graduates from high school and still 3 years after wants the same like hero's welcome. It was borderline pathetic, but once he was gone, he was gone. And that was the truth. And that was right after he left. And I mean, really didn't miss anything. The calls were getting screened by interns. I'm sure they probably were while he was still there. But I mean, didn't skip a beat. But he's just he's stuck, and it's not just him. And I'm sure Shuley could probably say it's the same thing. There's this mindset they all have when you're in that world that you're untouchable, and he just has not let it go.
One of the things that really annoys me about him particularly is that he's so bad at fighting back, and there's nothing wrong with him taking shots back. But if you look at Anthony Cumia, the best thing he can come up with is Pocky.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the only thing that's annoying about that nickname is that it's fucking lazy. Like Cumia's been accused of being with the tranny. Call him Tranthony Cumia.
I have a question. What's lazier, Kevin or Pocky? Which one do you think is lazier?
I would go with Pocky.
I'd go with Pocky too. I think Kevin was just because he's stupid.
Okay. Yeah, and is Kubi's skin even that bad? Like I've not.
It looks fine. Looks like a normal person.
Yeah, that's what's so fucking stupid about that nickname. I just think that Stuttering John is that sometimes I think we'll get off his back, but then when you hear the way he went after Chrissy Mayer, the little lovely lady, Chrissy Mayer, which I always say, by the way, exposes the hypocrisy of a lot of Hollywood liberals or American liberals in that they think they are only liberal and that they think so highly of themselves, but then they don't see other people as equals. They see them as black people or Asian people or women. They don't see them as equals. So they're going to, if they get a black guy on the show, Stuttering John's going to go, hey, what's Kanye West doing? Jerk off. and you just think that you can't, like, and with Chrissy, like, he was trying to fucking hook up with her.
He did. He tries to hook up with every woman that's on his show.
Yeah, like, it's ridiculous. And I just think that with Stuttering John, it's really like it's like watching the longest slow building midlife crisis ever. And I think we're due a really horrible ending soon because I don't know what's going on with his eyes, but he's gained weight in the forehead. And
That's never good.
I was gonna say that's not good.
yeah, when your face is gradually closing in on itself, that there's a problem going on.
Sure.
That you might want to go for a walk and take maybe don't, as he would admit to letting it snow when he's drinking.
He'll take a walk, but it's going to be to the pub. Like, it's not going to be for exercise. I don't know what to say, man. There's definitely an insane downhill that's very easy to document. I mean, if you go even look at him 2 years ago, and I hope that John takes the advice I gave to The Rock and just disappears for like a year or two and gets his shit together and then comes back in all of his glory. We're all going to be like, yay, we have Chad Zumach. He'll keep us occupied for a little while. Like we'll do other stuff, but fucking John, get it together, pal. Please, for the love of Christ.
He can't take the hint. He'll stay till the last dying breath. And it doesn't matter how bad he's deteriorated from the first time he was profiled to the last. He's going to stay there like that cockroach that ran across the bottom of the screen. He ain't going nowhere. The Rock? Rock might take a breather sooner or later. You can only have so many millions of dollars. John, he's going to be around. Oh,
so many millions of dollars.
That's it. So many millions. I mean, that's all you need.
Carl is a guy who actually does have some morals. Like, he's not just like after this guy just to be after him. When Carl first reviewed his show, it was all in good fun, and John lost his shit. Like, I'm going to have your legs broken, all sorts of crazy shit. And Carl was like, oh, you're going to have my legs broken? Oh, well, I'm going to review your dumb fucking show every week, you ass. And that's what he did. And this thing snowballed to now that there's people who do 2 shows a week. They have 2 separate shows that one does 2, the other one does 1. And then all these other shows are hopping on, and they're all doing shows about John. The only thing this guy could do is just to stop putting content out.
Yeah.
Because no matter what he does right now, unless he just stops it all, there's no cold turkey. Like, nobody's going to leave him alone. Carl may lay off. Shuley might lay off. But then you got Why Do I Podcast? Then you got the Steel Toe Morning Show. Then you got this show over here. All of these people, nobody's going to leave him alone. He's fucking going to run away.
But the thing is, and this isn't like a hot take, but I'm going to take full credit for it. He's missing out on a fortune, because if he said, right, I'm going to go on WATP, or I want them to come on my show, we'll only take answers or questions or comments from anyone in this live chat through super chats, and it has to be over $10 donations. Like, he could make, seriously, thousands.
And you know that Carl would say, keep the money, John. Shuley would say, keep the money, John. You don't have to pay us a goddamn thing. It's not going to be pleasant for him, though, if he gets into a room with these guys, because he's pissed them off quite a bit with, like you said, the way that he's handled the situation. Like, there's people who are legitimately angry, and Godspeed.
Yeah, for me, when I first realized, Jesus, this guy is kind of a dick, was when he was on the Artie and Anthony show, and Artie and Stuttering John was trying to tell a joke that he was pretending to make up on the spot, but Artie had heard the bit before, spoiled the finish, and Stuttering John's like, yeah, you really never got over your paraplegic dad, did you? And it's like, that's not a response,
Oh, the worst. Yeah, I mean, even going back to the first time he was on with Anthony, by the pool years and years ago. Once Stuttering John got introduced to like the Anthony world, I thought that was the worst thing that could have happened, because he sucks. Everywhere he goes, he sucks. That's why nobody ever had him on between the Tonight Show and whenever he popped up with Anthony. He's terrible. And now we get to enjoy every minute of it.
I genuinely think that by May 2023, we are going to somehow find footage of Stuttering John eating with or playing with his own crap.
It's going to just be security footage for whatever room they lock him in. But
I thought it was the microphone.
Stuttering John there's so many things that are interesting about this whole story. And I try to think about this. what a mastermind Howard Stern was to be able to use him effectively for so long as he did. Because everywhere else, even Anthony Cumia, who might be one of the funniest human beings on planet Earth, couldn't figure out what to fucking do with this guy in terms of a bit, in terms of anything. Nobody has figured out how to use this guy properly except for Howard Stern.
Yeah.
John can't even figure it out for himself.
Because even when John was getting paid, he was still working with the interns. So, I mean, he was basically with people with the same like brain capacity that he had.
Don't talk shit about the interns like that.
Hey, I was an intern. I could I lump him into my at that point. I mean, we would have done anything to just get acknowledged. But he was only making a little bit more, and they weren't making any money. So it's he's just lumped in with the common folk.
I've never been mad at him for taking the money to go do the Tonight Show. Fuck.
No, not at all.
Nobody would be mad, but it's the way he handles himself. It's like the lack of self-awareness. It's the fact that he's the most abrasive human being to be around. It's so much. There's just so much shit there that he's in his own way.
Right. But even that was shitty. The way he went about leaving is that he was doing his own demo tapes on their property in their space to get a better paying job to leave. Like even that was shitty.
Scott was on the clock and he's like, Nicolas Cage. Pamela Anderson.
But the way I would basically describe the downfall of Stuttering John is that just say it would be the equivalent of you've got Jenna Jameson from the mid-90s waiting for you in your bedroom. You've got Halle Berry from the early 2000s waiting for you in the spare room. You've got the Baywatch cast from the Pamela Anderson era waiting for you in the living room. So he goes into the bathroom and whacks off. He's had everything ready for him, and he's just said, "No, do it my own way. Why would I need an audience of millions to propel my career?"
The thing, I work in stand-up. I work for a comedy club. I perform all over the place. And one thing that I know, if you have any type of credit, if you have movie credits, which he does, he was in Airheads, he was in Osmosis Jones. If you've been on the fucking Tonight Show once, that's a credit that's on posters. Everything that you do, if you have these credits, they think you could draw a dime, you work in the stand-up comedy business because there's a club somewhere that will hire you. Not this guy. Every bridge has been burnt. Like nobody's hiring him. He can't get management. And he wants to blame it on trolls fucking with his gigs and stuff like that. But it's the fact that, once again, can't get in his own way, doesn't put the work in past, hey, I'm here, I'm showing up, squeegee, I've been doing the same bit since 99. Like, you have to, put in some work in your life. And John doesn't even put in work doing his podcast. He brings guests on and lets them talk for 45 minutes. And he sits there and goes, you couldn't be more right. The guy does nothing.
You would think with all the Stuttering John mania that's out there, while everybody else is making money off of him, he still can't get booked, even for the novelty of his act being a joke and sucking. He still can't get booked anywhere in his godforsaken country.
I tried to book him.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. His management put out a thing. He was going to go do a tour with almost convicted sex pest Ron Jeremy and fucking as the MC. Brian Dunkelman from America.
Oh, Jesus.
From American Idol. I had to remember. He was the guy who was the host of Seacrest who quit after the first season. And then John. And I talked to the guy who was booking them. And I said, all right, what are you looking for? And he threw a number out at me. And I went and I talked to my bosses and we discussed it. And we thought to ourselves, the only person on this bill who's worth the money is Ron Jeremy. Because people would come to get the picture of fucking Ron Jeremy. And that's fucked up too. Like, it's just such a weird fucking business.
Yeah, but
they got to package it with all these other people because nobody's going to buy a ticket.
Yeah, and the thing is, but his material stinks as well because he won't, as you mentioned, he won't update his references because he's probably like, do you ever notice when you're returning the video to Blockbuster and you're waiting for the Matrix 2 to come out and you're thinking, why can't I get this Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey project off the ground? But I just think that with Stuttering John, he's decreased so much to a level that it's like basically you go out on a date with a girl and it's the third time you farted around her that day and they go, we're done. And I think that with Stuttering John,
Well, the third time you hear the squeegee bit in your club, you're fucking done too.